Well, you fix it. All right. If you can, would be great. They do say dynamite comes in small packages. I think facilities management should have known they need to have a nice stool for me here. I can start if you're ready. Should I start or is it, do I need to wait? I need guidance. Okay.
We'll have to just put them, all of them.
Take them off the stands.
Off
maybe.
them.
Yeah.
All of them.
Ah, okay.
Especially this one.
Is that yours?
This is mine. This one. Okay, just put it down. Like that I can.
Okay, that's it.
And then are you able to?
Okay.
And then this is the part where you wait for me to reach my camera.
I will. I promise. I promise I will. Okay. Just about make it. If those lights are very bright. You think I need extra lights? Is that a compliment? I'm joking. You should know my sense of humor by now. Are we ready? Okay, thank you. I had to wait for the media. Apologies for that. Okay, so good afternoon and greetings to members of the media here present, to those online, and importantly to the people of South Africa, who I speak to today on my last day in office as the National Director of Public Prosecutions, as your National Director of Public Prosecutions. So as Bulelwa Makeke, the Head of Communications, just mentioned, the purpose is to present parts of, the annual report of the NPA. That is a 2024-2025 report, which was tabled in Parliament last year. And yeah, this is, where do I have it? Somewhere here. Yeah, this is the annual report that I'm referring to of the NPA, which, read it, it looks really good. And there's lots of good stuff in here that I'd like the media to take note of, and not just the clickbait headlines. There's lots of really good stuff in here. So I would really urge you all to have a look at it. And in fact, the ones over the past 5 years, to reflect the progress that the NPA has made over this period. So this final one, which was tabled in Parliament last year, normally as the NPA, we then go to Parliament and we brief Parliament and the country on the previous work, on the annual report. But that didn't happen last year. We were not called to Parliament for the briefing, as we have done annually. And there were various reasons for it, including that Parliament, the heavy, busy schedule with committees, inquiries, etc. And so I'm here today on my last working day in office, as I really do consider it my obligation to speak to the nation. It would not have been right for me to quietly leave without accounting to the people of South Africa who we serve. So before I get into this, I suppose I should deal with the one big elephant in the room, which I think many of you would be wanting to ask me questions about, but which I can't say much about in this public forum, and that is the Nkabinde inquiry. I can't say much about it publicly like this. There's a lot I would like to say about it. But for now, all I'm going to say in this platform is that, one, I did not walk out of the inquiry. Two, I am not a delinquent. And three, I would really like to say that I am committed to this process. It's a process that has started, and I've always been committed to this process from the first day that we started preparing for the inquiry, and for I think it was 15 days that I was actually in the inquiry. And I do not intend not to continue with my work in that regard. And so now, getting to the work of the NPA, as I share with you some of the work of the NPA during 2024, 2025, I would really like to say that I am filled with a profound sense of gratitude for having been really blessed, and some might think I'm crazy to say I'm blessed because it has been a roller coaster, but really to have been blessed with the honor and privilege of leading this incredible institution called the National Prosecuting Authority and serving our people with humility through one of the most turbulent and transformative periods in South Africa's democratic history. February 2019, the 1st of February 2019 to be precise, marked the start of my term in the long shadow of state capture, a time that was marked by profound institutional decay, erosion of public trust, and a deeply compromised criminal justice system. And we're hearing a lot about that in the Madlanga Commission, which I will touch on later. I returned from the International Criminal Court in The Hague in the Netherlands and took office with a very clear mandate, and that was to restore the integrity, independence, and professionalism to the NPA to the extent that it had been depleted, and to ensure that justice is not only done, but seen to be done. Over the past 5 years, and I say 5 years because although my term has been 7, we were interrupted by COVID and we didn't have a leadership team. So the work really of rebuilding started about 5 years ago. And so over this period, the NPA has moved with urgency and determination to respond to our mandate. It has been an incredibly, incredibly challenging journey. We had to rebuild a broken institution while simultaneously, and I repeat, simultaneously, delivering on our core prosecutorial responsibilities, given the understandable impatience for accountability and justice in this country. The work is not yet complete, but you may, as people of South Africa, rest assured that a solid foundation has been built for a stronger, more effective NPA. We have shifted from a phase of stabilization when I took office to one of consolidation with increasing signs of institutional resilience and operational impact that I will talk about. Our performance has improved from meeting our targets, meeting 50% of our targets in 2020, 2021, and look at all of our previous annual reports. We moved to 75% in 2022, 2023. And then we moved to we were around 73% in 2023, 2024. And in 2024, 2025, the last year that I'm reporting on, we reached 86% of our targets. And the year to date in the current financial year, which will finish, as Bulelwa mentioned, in 3 months' time, we are sitting at 94% of NPA targets. Now, I'll deal with this, and I understand what compliance target means and impact, and I will deal with that matter because I know there will be many who will be quick to say, and understandably so, that even though these targets are met, there are still certain important issues that have not been addressed adequately, and I will deal with that. During the 2024-2025 financial year, the Investigating Directorate Against Corruption, and these are some of the important, I don't want to call it successes, but milestones in this financial year that I'm talking to. The IDAC was formally established in August 2024, and this has to date enrolled 50 high-profile matters involving 332 accused persons and entities. You will note that the Transnet matter is in court next week. And in as much as many cases, important cases, have not gone to finality, many of the key Gupta lieutenants are in court, and many of them in this particular case as well. 380 persons were convicted of corruption-related crimes, while 268 convictions were attained in the complex commercial crime offenses. We've made really excellent progress in recovering the proceeds of crime, sending a message that really crime must not pay. Accountability for organized crime, corruption, and other crime involving proceeds is two-pronged, and that has been our strategy. It's prosecutions and orange overalls, critically important, but another critically important aspect of accountability is bringing the money back. And so we have implemented the corporate alternate dispute resolution mechanism, an innovative way of engaging with companies, and I emphasize companies, to deal with corporate crime more strategically. During this period, the asset forfeiture unit recovered 1.96 billion and paid into the criminal, that amount. No, let me repeat that. They recovered 1.96 billion, and of that, 1.9 billion was paid into the criminal assets recovery account. I pause to state that the criminal asset recovery account is an account into which the asset forfeiture unit deposits the money after we recovered it as proceeds of crime. I pause to add that I think it must have been about a year or so ago, 2.2 billion rand from the criminal asset recovery account was used to fight the illegal mining crisis that we found ourselves in. And just recently, another 1 billion has been disbursed to the South African Police Service to fight organized crime. Also 100 million to fight gender-based violence. Looking back at the past 5 financial years, the value of monies recovered by the asset forfeiture unit has produced remarkable results. The asset forfeiture unit recovered 6.3 billion rand, with 4.82 paid to Kara and 1.477 billion paid to victims. The total recoveries over the past 5 years, and this is an important, very important statistic for accountability, the total recoveries over the past 5 years represents 47% of all recoveries made by the asset forfeiture unit since its inception in 1999. Since that time, 1999, the AFU recovered 13.29 billion, of which 6.07 billion was recovered in the past 5 years. So other key achievements during this period, we've been working with our partners in government, and we've had innovative partnerships with the private sector, which has resulted in the acceleration and expansion of the Thuthuzela Care Centers, which is a one-stop facility for support to victims on their road to becoming survivors of gender-based violence. There are 66 nationwide, and this is certainly not enough. We are also thinking ahead as the NPA. We developed our organized crime strategy. We all know that organized crime is morphing faster than any one of us would, and we adopted this strategy against organized crime, developed working with UNTOC experts, and that adopts a harm reduction approach and focuses on holding the kingpins accountable, following the money and not foot soldiers. We are finalizing national prioritization guidelines so that our prosecutors put their energy and limited resources where it matters most, and to ensure we maintain public trust. And I'll talk about that because I know there's a lot that we can talk about trust, particularly when it comes to dealing with high-profile state capture-related corruption matters, and I will deal with that. But to strengthen the institution, and I pause to emphasize that the importance of strong institution in a constitutional democracy cannot be underestimated. We need to build strong institutions that are fit for purpose, that can meet the challenges that we face today. And so this work of institution building, the drudgery of institution building, which does not make headlines, is incredibly important. And a lot of work has gone into ensuring that the NPA is a strong and ethical institution that can serve the public as it should. We've established the Office for Ethics and Accountability. And so, despite important progress in various areas, South Africans are understandably frustrated by the slow pace of complex corruption cases, and of course, the lack of orange overalls for the most egregious offenders, those most responsible, as we refer to. This frustration is real. I understand it. I feel it. The NPA understands it. But here's the reality. It is a sad reality. Globally, not just in South Africa, complex corruption and organized crime prosecutions take years. They require intelligence, documents from multiple jurisdictions that must meet admissibility requirements, skilled investigators, forensic analysis, and importantly, a justice system that can withstand relentless, and I emphasize relentless, delay tactics. Let us see what happens with the Transnet matter this week. So delays do not mean inaction. They mean that the work is difficult, intricate, and if we get it right, it must be solid to withstand any appeal. And we must get it right. So unless we as a country, as government, civil society, as well as private sector actors, address some of the systemic issues that affect the criminal justice value chain as a whole, many of our efforts to rebuild the NPA, despite the hard work and commitment of our prosecutors, will not yield the desired impact. In fact, if these issues are not addressed, the next NDPP will face the same fate and challenges that I have faced, and nothing much will change. It is therefore time that we consciously focus on addressing systemic challenges that affect the entire criminal justice value chain. And there's a number that I have here, and I'm going to go through it quickly because I do want to have more time to engage with you and take your questions. We need solid and reliable crime intelligence. We need a judiciary that is committed to dealing forcefully with Stalingrad or so-called delaying tactics. Recent attacks and the murder of committed investigators, lawyers, whistleblowers, and even prosecutors highlights the need for us to enhance their protection, both through legislation and all of the support that they need. These men and women are our first line of defense, and too many have paid dearly for their courage. Importantly, we need to align performance indicators across the criminal justice value chain. Otherwise, we will continue to pull in different directions. And yet our recent exit from FATF grey list was not by luck. It was an example of how successful we can be as a country if we work together collectively with common goals. We are committed to prosecuting corruption every day, every hour. But the truth is simple. No part of the criminal justice system succeeds alone. That is why, instead of seeing this as a moment of crisis in the criminal justice system, I welcome the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. The NPA, regrettably, did not have its Nugent Commission like SARS, and it is time that it did have one. South Africa needs a full, honest analysis of the entire criminal justice value chain so that it can be strengthened as a whole. There will be no different outcome until such time as systemic issues and the rot within the system. And if there's rot within the NPA, we want that to be also addressed. All of the rot within the criminal justice system must be addressed once and for all. This is our opportunity to really take on board recommendations from the Madlanga Commission and make very important reforms across the system. Today is my last day of in office. I leave behind an NPA that is more independent, more credible, more resilient, and more future ready than the one I inherited when I took office 7 years ago. Because this fight was never about one individual. It is about one truth, that in South Africa, no one, no matter how powerful, must be above the law. This journey would not have been possible without the dedication, resilience, and integrity of the men and women in the NPA at strategic levels, leadership levels, and mostly, I thank the foot soldiers, all of you prosecutors across the country in the most rural areas that are fighting the good fight. Under the guidance of the directors of public prosecutions, I include here the investigating director as well as the various special directors, as well as support from all our support services here. I said to them yesterday, you are all fighters for justice and the rule of justice and the rule of law in our country, who fight often without recognition, but always in the service of justice and the people of South Africa. This has been an extremely difficult and challenging, but purposeful journey, marked by complexity, pressure, and moments that have tested our resolve, both individually and collectively. Throughout it all, I have drawn strength and commitment and resilience from those around me and the prosecutors on the ground. I'm deeply grateful to the members of my executive committee, those that have left in Advocate Anton du Plessis, as well as Advocate Omar Rabaji Rasitaba, and our dear Advocate Rodney de Kock. May his soul rest in peace, who left us almost exactly a year ago. And I also, to the acting deputy national directors who are behind me that have been introduced. And as importantly, as I say, all of you prosecutors across the country, your unwavering support, wisdom, and commitment I could always count on. This has been invaluable to me, both professionally and personally, and even when I've needed a shoulder to cry on. To our partners in government, civil society, the legal community, the private sector, thank you all for your collaboration and your commitment. To the people of South Africa, should I say thank you for your patience? It has been tested for various reasons, but I want you to please not give up on South Africa, on the NPA. The NPA is on the right path, a path of renewal, accountability, and public service. As I said, the NPA is stronger, but there's a lot of unfinished business and key issues that remain part of this, which seriously impact on the ability of the NPA to do its work more effectively, include enhancing the NPA's operational and financial independence. The minister has expressed her support for this, that draft legislative amendments, or that it will be dealt with by the end of this financial year to address this aspect. The NPA must have its own accounting officer. Another unfinished business is comparable salary dispensation for the NPA that I won't go into details with in the interest of time. Addressing skills gap, in as much as we've done a lot to build a strong institution, there's still a lot that needs to be done in this regard. I have full confidence in my successor, Advocate Mothibi, a man of great integrity and an impeccable track record in getting results. And I'm sure that he will take the work of the NPA forward. We have developed a comprehensive handover report. Bulelwa, you have a copy of it here? That I will hand over to Advocate Mothibi. And we hope that this in itself will provide a strong platform for continued reform and progress. And as I wrap up, let me say that in South Africa, we are in a very, very difficult position as far as crime is concerned. Communities are scared, businesses are fatigued, and citizens are tired of waiting for justice. But the most dangerous thing we could do right now is to lose hope. Hopelessness is a gift to criminals. If South Africans lose faith in the rule of law, the people trying to break the system win without firing a shot. But believe you me, they're firing a lot of shots. And that is exactly how societies drift into autocratic quick fixes. We cannot hand them that victory. Despite everything, I leave this office hopeful, genuinely hopeful. We have rebuilt an institution that was once almost written off. I've seen what South Africans can achieve when we stop arguing about who's to blame and start focusing on what must be done. President Mandela never saw hope as a luxury. He saw it as a discipline, a choice, and a refusal to let despair dictate our future. That is the spirit we need right now. The rule of law in South Africa is not dead. In fighting, improving, it is fighting and it is worth defending it. If we back the next NDPP, fix systemic weaknesses, strengthen partnerships with integrity, and refuse to surrender to cynicism, we can absolutely turn the tide against corruption and organized crime. We've done the impossible before, and I would like to think we can do it again. I thank you.
Okay, I won't move the mics because you're going to be back up here again answering questions. So thank you very much, colleagues. What you would have noticed is that we kept it brief, high level. So that and NDPP did say already that she's hoping to have more time to engage than just really telling you something that you already have. We have our annual report that is available, and I believe you would have received your, as you were coming in, we've got a QR code where you can actually scan and get the presentation that highlights all the successes from the annual report. So that's where you will get all the information about the states. And NDPP, while we're sitting there, I saw there's an update about the Constitutional Court dismissing the appeals that the people involved in the Newland case had actually put up to try. It came as we're sitting here, so you can still talk to it if you'd like to. But I mean, that's a significant thing because the Newland matter has been the bugbear of especially the investigating directorate against corruption. So that's one more beautiful news before you leave. I think it's your exit gift. Then I will now open up for questions. Spamandla, okay, I kind of know everybody here, but still, when you ask your question, just identify yourself and indicate which newsroom you come from, which media house you come from. Spamandla, you're first, and you say.
Thank you very much. My name is Spamandla.
Wait, let me just identify because then NDPP will come up and so it will be Spamandla and where are you sitting at the back? Wouldn't you like to come closer? ENCA.
Can I go?
Just hold on, Spamandla. And okay, so that's the second hand. And can I have the third hand, please? Okay, those two for now. Spamandla, you may start. And as you ask your question, identify yourself again. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Spamandla Koke from ENCA. Clearly, there is a lot of work that you leave behind that needs to be done in terms of fixing the organization. If you were to elaborate for us in terms of this unfinished business, what would you say are the things, top 3 things that need to be worked on to fix the NPA? Number 2, in the past, you were quoted as saying the NPA was infiltrated. Were you able to clean it up? And number 3, in hindsight, I know you have spoken about it, the Nkabinde inquiry. In hindsight, do you regret your conduct and behavior at the Nkabinde inquiry? Thank you.
Should I take the second question as well? Who's the second?
Mine is almost a similar question to my colleague. NDPP, you mentioned once that the NPA did not get the results they expected, especially from the State Capture Commission. So do you believe that there should be a commission directed specifically at the NPA in order to deal with what my colleague alluded to as infiltration? And when you came in, you did mention that the reputation of the NPA was not that good. Do you believe that you're leaving it with a much better reputation considering most of the high-profile cases you've handled? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for those questions. Spamandla, first, the fixing the organization and the unfinished business. That's a really important question. I'll tell you why. And maybe sort of my response will be linked to partly to the second question, dealing with the commission, with regard to infiltration. What we did, what happened when I took office is that I came in and there was this absolute urgency to deliver on state capture related matters. And not just from the people, from me as well as the new national director. That was my one of the key priorities from day one in my office, was to bring to court, enroll state capture, and hold people accountable for bringing our country to its knees, for stealing from the people of our country. So that was a very important aspect, a huge priority. But given the hunger and given the impatience to see justice, understandable impatience, because of what emerged in the Zondo Commission, we were trying to do that with an aeroplane that was in flight but had serious problems. And what we should have done is landed the plane, understood exactly what the problems were, fixed it, and then properly tried to go on with the journey. But what happened in that process is that because of the urgency, I also wanted to get things on the roll. So we kind of just were trying to do this. And remember, COVID hit us. And then we had 2 years that nothing much happened. And so there is unfinished business in terms of trying to fix the organization, a lot of unfinished business. And I think one of the main issues, you said, what are the three things? I think the main one is the operational and financial independence of the NPA. The NPA is the only entity in the criminal justice family, let me put it that way, where the head of the NPA or the head of the entity is not the accounting officer of the entity. So the national director is perhaps not powerful, is a powerful person without any power. Let me put it that way. So, you cannot determine your own budget. You cannot determine your own spending. You cannot determine salaries. You cannot determine who to fire and who to hire. And so the accounting officer issue is very important. And I'm sure that Advocate Matibi will take this forward. This has been a battle that's been fought for the past 20 years. But Advocate Matibi comes from being an accounting officer in the SIU to not being an accounting officer in the NPA. And let's see how he's going to be able to tackle that. So hopefully he'll be able to take on the work and complete that bit of unfinished business. I think the second aspect that needs to be dealt with urgently is to address the salary dispensation. At the moment, Advocate Matibi, for example, in the SIU, if they want a certain skill, they can offer someone a higher salary. In the NPA, we are restricted by public service salary rates. And we find that we are becoming a revolving wheel where we train, we skill, and people then move either to other parts of government where the salary options are better, or even outside to the private sector. And so unless you deal with the salary issue, we are constantly going to be training people for elsewhere. And we will not be able to fight this fight against corruption particularly, because it requires very specialized skills. And I think the third one is to have the capabilities and capacities to deal with corruption in terms of, having your proper financial investigators with skills that are required, your data analysts. And so I think those would be the top three things that I would say that need to be tended to in order to deal with. With regard to the issue of, I think the infiltration, which you covered as well, you will recall that I was asked this question at the ad hoc committee in Parliament, and I dealt with it quite extensively. So if we read my responses there, it's clear what I said about it. I said in Parliament, and now it's of public record, that I didn't I suppose, the use of the word infiltration was, induced a sense of shock at the time. But I mentioned that at the time because I had received, and this is what I said in Parliament, I had received a formal oral intelligence briefing that the NPA was being infiltrated in certain parts of the country in particular. And that is the reason. And it was a huge concern to me because as prosecutors and as lawyers for the people who must prosecute without fear, favor, or prejudice, and in particular, without influence from the strong, the rich, and the powerful, it was a concern to me. And so one of the things I did almost immediately after that is to visit the regions, speak to prosecutors, and tell them, as citizens of this country, we have a right to vote. We can support any political party we want. But when we look at a docket, the only thing that guides our decision is the evidence and our policies. And so, I certainly hope that it is, I would like to think that the majority of the prosecutors in the NPA are dedicated, hard work, committed to the mission. But if they are, in fact, and it's one of the reasons why I welcome Madlanga Commission, because I really thought that the NPA, this is the moment that the NPA has for any rot in the NPA to also be exposed. Because it doesn't help if we get, story and talk in passage talk. In order to deal in a legal system with disciplinary inquiries and to get rid of people that are not committed to the rule of law or that are compromised, we need evidence. And so I received intelligence from high profile, as I said, and I also received reports from the National Commissioner, and we need the evidence. So that is a concern for me. I don't know whether a commission at the NPA will solve the problem. I hope that Madlanga will serve, because Madlanga Commission is not only looking at the police, it's looking across the entire criminal justice system. So I would urge people that have any information about the NPA to also raise it at the Madlanga Commission, or to please come forward with that. As far as with hindsight about what happened at the commission, I think you're right. With hindsight, I could perhaps have dealt with it differently. But I would like the people of this country to understand that we're all human. And sometimes you perhaps don't have the time to reflect through things and to properly decide what's best. It was something that happened very quickly. I didn't have access to legal counsel. I couldn't speak to my lawyer at the time. So I couldn't bounce it off anyone in terms of how should I deal with this? So it was something that I dealt with because of the situation I found myself in. I don't regret having made the decision. It's an important one. It's important for the future conduct of these inquiries. It's important for the way in which a national director is able to deal with these matters, or the president. It's important for the country. So I don't regret the decision. I think it's going to help move forward. But yes, with hindsight, to the extent that I may need to apologize to the people of this country for having acted in that way, please forgive me. But I really, at that point in time, I was in a very difficult situation. And yeah, I could have dealt with it differently, but hopefully the outcome at the end will actually justify my decision, and we will hopefully see the process proceed. And I do intend to complete the task at hand. The second,
Are there
sorry.
any more? Okay, so we'll give you another chance if there's nothing. Okay, Samada.
So Sorry, but thank you again, Sipamandla from
Oh, there was another
ENCA.
question. Sorry, I didn't answer the other question. There's one
Oh,
last
you didn't
question.
answer that one, okay.
Yeah, who says it? Sorry, you asked a very important question, and I was not trying to run away from that one. You said the NPA. I said the NPA was not in a good position. Is it in a better position? And I think that depends on the lens through which you look at this. And in order to answer whether the NPA is in a better position, you've got to understand what is it that you consider that better position to be. And if that better position is that there haven't been any state capture and other high-profile related corruption matters that have gone from enrollment through to finalization of the trial, then yes, I agree, the NPA is not in a better position. And sadly, that is what is driving public sentiment and public assessment of the NPA. And before I move on to what is the other scenario of whether it is in a better position, on this first one, let me say that cases have not moved from enrollment through to finalization for various reasons. The fact of the matter is, even though the Guptas have not been extradited, and yes, the NPA still gets blamed for not having brought the Guptas back, when in fact I have explained ad nauseum about what happened in the UAE. But there will be another extradition application. I was hoping it would happen in my term, but sadly it hopefully will not be too long when that happens, with more charges. But they are not back. But key Gupta lieutenants, the ones that moved allegedly, well, no, we do know that they were in Transnet, Eskom, are in court. They will be appearing, many of them next week. And that is not a sign of weakness, but the system after that, of course, it is a sense of incredible frustration that cases do not move through the system to finality for various reasons. And it requires very, very strong case management. Maybe it requires a specialized court for corruption or procurement-related corruption cases. It is so important. And so the frustration of the NPA to stop Stalingrad tactics, the rule of law, confidence in the rule of law does not happen by enrollment of cases. Confidence in the rule of law is when cases move through the system to finality. And let me say, in our next FATF assessment, starting in June and for 1 year in 2027, the decision will be made whether we go back into grey list. This assessment, they looked at enrollments. The next one, they're going to be looking at finalization. So unless the system does not change to move cases quickly through to finalization, we are at risk with regard to FATF. So if you ask whether the NPA is in a better place, and that is the lens and the measure, then I would say, sadly, we're not. But if you ask me whether the NPA is in a better place because it is a stronger institution, it is an institution that has been rebuilt, that it is an institution of integrity, we have, I would say it's a big success. There's unfinished business, but the NPA of today is not the NPA of 7 years ago. And when you look at all of the work that has gone into building capacity, capabilities, the digital evidence unit that has been set up in partnership with business, with the BAXA, Business Against Crime South Africa, is a state-of-the-art capacity that is not existent in government, and that we as police, prosecutors, NPA have been outsourcing and procuring at considerable cost to the taxpayer. Now we've partnered with business under the business initiative, and it's an incredibly good, in fact, they just started recently. I visited it last week, and it's incredible to see these young, bright South Africans there looking to deal with data analysis. And that is going to be a game changer. So if you look at that, hugely successful. If you look at the asset forfeiture, and remember I said accountability is two-pronged. orange overalls, and bringing back the money. Asset forfeiture has been incredibly successful. And Advocate Kuma Mtengwane is behind me. She is now the acting Deputy National Director, Asset Forfeiture. As I said earlier, almost 50% of all the money that's gone into CARA, Criminal Asset Recovery Account, over the past 25 years, 50% of that has gone in the past 4 years, 5 years at most. That is, and money that has been used to fight illegal mining, to fight organized crime now, and also given back to victims. So if you ask me about whether the NPA is better, it is incrementally better, or should I say exponentially better. But a strong institution, still a lot of unfinished work. But yes, on this side, I even feel disappointed that those high-profile cases have not moved swiftly. But I feel confident that, things will change, and many cases before courts hopefully will move quicker, and there will be key enrollments that will be happening in the next couple of months as well. Thank you.
Giving you a chance, Pamandla, again. Any other?
Okay. Can I go?
Proceed.
Thank you very much. Sipamandla from ENCA again. Do you think you got enough support from all stakeholders to be able to do your job? Did you have that support? Number two, your critics have said you were very arrogant and somehow squandered goodwill. People had high hopes.
So just one moment.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, the first part of your question, my apologies.
Do you think you had enough support to execute your
correct,
duties from
Yeah.
all stakeholders?
Mhm.
Number two, your critics have said that you were a bit arrogant and somehow squandered public goodwill because many people,
Squandered?
public goodwill, the trust of the people, they had high hopes in you. But somehow your performance does not reflect that hope. And number three, did you ever feel that someone was putting political pressure on you not to deal with certain matters?
Okay, so on the first one, enough support. I'd say we have had really good support from stakeholders. I will qualify that a little bit, but firstly, if I deal with external, stakeholders are external. From the executive, I've had incredibly good support, and importantly, critically for the country, no political interference or pressure. And not from any of the ministers I've worked under, not from the president. I'm not sure if we appreciate the value of this in our constitutional democracy. The value of a prosecuting authority, an NDPP, being able to do his or her work without that pressure. It is something that we must treasure. And I am grateful that I've had the support, but no pressure at all. With regard to stakeholders, yes, we've had support from stakeholders. I do think that we need to, as stakeholders and partners in the system, hold each other accountable more. I think there's relationships which are important because you need to have good stakeholder relationships, but we need to have maturity in our relationships where we're able to hold each other accountable across the criminal justice system and still work together. So I think there has been generally good support. With regard to arrogant, that's, yeah. So Cleopatra was called a manipulator, and if she was a man, she would have been called a strategist. So I don't know. I've always tried to be a humble civil servant. My people that work with me will tell you that. And the public goodwill, I hope you haven't lost faith and trust in me as a human being, but in the NPA, more importantly, as an institution. Because as I explained to you, I don't want to be defensive. We must appreciate the huge challenges we're facing in this country. I agree, corruption cases must move quicker. And to that extent, I've not only perhaps disappointed the people of South Africa, but I personally feel disappointed that we have not moved those cases. And so I want to really implore the public to not lose faith and not lose hope in good people trying to do their best under the most incredibly difficult circumstances. And I'm not just talking about difficult circumstances relating to the complexity of cases, but where witnesses are being killed, investigators are being killed, prosecutors are being killed. And to put your lives on the line to fight this important fight is not easy. So all I want to say to the people of South Africa, please don't give up hope, because if we do, then we really don't have anything. But from our side as public servants, you may rest assured we will fight as hard as we can. Thank you.
It does appear that we are at the end of I don't see any more questions. And so with that, we then finish our media briefing with the NDPP, and we wish her well as she rolls over into retirement and a life of pleasure and leisure. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of our briefing. Thank you.